All right. Good morning, ladies. Thank you for joining us. I know everyone is in transition this morning, so we appreciate you jumping on. And we are really excited today because not just the Catalyst crew is with us, but we have with us, many of you may know her. If not, you should, Linda Endicott. Linda is at Rockhurst University. So, Linda, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Good morning. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you, Katie, Jenna, and Emma. How much fun. I am at Rockhurst University, as Katie said, and I'm the managing director of the Executive MBA program, which means the average student in the Executive MBA program is around
Morning.
mid-40s.
Yay. Well, Linda, we're thrilled to have you with us. And the reason we wanted to have Linda with us is we've had so many conversations lately with Linda and really with everybody. It feels like lately about allyship and relationship building, and especially as women. So we thought this would be a fun conversation to bring Linda in on with us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let me share my screen.
As we start sharing, ladies, I'll give you guys some context. So we have been friends with Linda for a while now, and if anybody in the world has had experience with the troubles and tribulations of being a woman in the workforce and being there to help others, it is Linda. So allyship as a woman is important to all of us, but she really has helped us with so many things and can give some great insight to what it's like to be a woman in the workforce.
Well, when you first talked about the topic and I started thinking about allyship as a woman, the three of you absolutely popped into my head. And especially Katie and Jenna, having known you now for a while, Jenna, you the longest, but it really is it's about an allyship is who's your friend, who's your buddy, who's the one that has your back. And it has a lot to do with whether you're in the room or not. That's the person that will always be your person. So that's why when we were talking about what this was going to be, let's be curious about allyship. It is the who, what, when, where, why, and how of allyship. And it all begins with you. It's an inside job. You have to be the one to start it. So I think that's maybe a good point. Can we start there?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It does start with us and individually. And I love that you said, it's people will say your name whether you're in the room or not. And I find that, and it's not just women, but specifically with women, we need to say each other's names in rooms that they're not there, and not just whisper people's names, but like yell people's names when they're not in the room.
Well, I think it's also important to remember being an ally for someone else is great, but you have to be your own ally. Mm-hmm. And how do you do that? Because it does all begin with you. And much like we do here at Rockhurst, I've always been impressed with the self-reflection part of allyship. I was taught a long time ago, as long as you could look yourself in the eye when you're brushing your teeth at the beginning or the end of your day, you've done a pretty good job. And so I think remembering to be your own ally and not self-defeating is kind of a big deal. So it's all in your leadership, which is actually why you're with Katie and Jenna and Emma, because this is all based upon leadership. How do you lead yourself before you can be an ally in leadership to someone else?
Yeah, I love that. And Linda, you teed that up perfectly. So Jenna and or Emma, I'm going to let you talk about, I'm sure many of you, even if you haven't seen the Barbie movie, maybe you've seen the video, but this quote. So Jenna or Emma, you want to talk about this?
Emma, I feel like this is a appropriate one for you because this is your movie, but I'll take it if you want to, since I'm the one who put it in here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we all, if you've seen the movie, you've seen this quote, the first line really just says it all. If you haven't seen it, it's literally impossible to be a woman. Like we're all so talented, so beautiful, so kind, but yet some part of us really just doesn't feel like we're good enough. And we have to be thin, but don't be too thin. And, you can never say you want to be thin, but you have to be healthy, but you also have to be thin. You have to have money, but you can't ask for money because that's crass. And you have to be a boss, but you can't be mean, but you have to lead, but you can't squash other people's dreams, but always be grateful. And like, if you haven't seen the movie, go look for the America Ferrera clip of this, because when she really reads it out, that part of the movie really, just as a female, it kind of just, it hits you because it really is hard. And, my sweet boyfriend and Emma's sweet fiance went with us, and it doesn't quite hit men the same because they don't have this same problem, right? We can't, guys just get to be themselves, and they get to show up, and they can show up in the most ridiculous outfit they want, and nobody looks at them in a certain way because that's just who they are, right? But if a woman shows up in an outfit that's a little too tight or a little too loose or a little, like, we have this pendulum that is just obnoxious. Let's be real. And that's why, having this allyship is so great. So is there anything, Emma, you want to add to?
I was just gonna say, during this part of the movie, when America Ferrera is saying this whole little monologue, you can tell she's feeling it in her bones. It's not just a line in a movie to her that she's memorized. She is feeling it as a woman, and I think we all felt it too. I mean, I think there were several people in the theater who like had tears pouring down their face, because it's like, yes, we all really identify with what it's like to have to walk this line.
Yeah, you're so right. And I saw the movie with my sweet baby girl, and to know that this is still going on, like, Linda's experienced it through her whole career. I've experienced it through my 25 years career. Like, it's still there for this next generation. So
Most definitely. That was all really well said. I do love this quote. And yes, men were crying in this movie as well. When I looked over at my darling husband, who really didn't understand why it hit him the way that it did, but it just did. And when we got in the car, he said, "Can we wait till we get home so I can actually process this?" He said that kind of hit me, because he said, "I felt you move." So he said, "I knew there was something." So we've talked about it quite a bit, but there were a lot of tears. I agree. And it
Yeah.
is something, I've been in the workforce for a long time. And there are just some times that being a woman, I mean, I love it. I love being a woman. I don't want to be anyone else other than myself. Everyone else is already taken. So, I'd rather just be me, but sometimes it just gets really difficult.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we wanted to, before we jumped all the way into allyship, it's so important, for us to talk about belonging, because I mean, it's the Brene Brown. We gotta do the Jenna. First of all, we should have started with singing happy birthday. We won't, Jenna, but it is Jenna's birthday. Um, so it wouldn't be Jenna's birthday without a Brene Brown quote. Um,
Fair
but
enough.
so I snuck this one in here for you, Jenna. But it's so true. Like, the fitting in is becoming who you think you need to be in order to be accepted, where belonging allows us to come as our authentic, true self, and knowing that no matter what happens, you belong. And when we think about, not just the business world, but I've seen so many women just change who they are to fit in. And I think we shared this last time when we talked about imposter syndrome. Like, I actually said to a woman one time, like, I hope at some point in her life she reflects back to how her behavior is now, and that she is just trying to fit in as opposed to, really being her true, authentic self. And I think so often as women, we try to fit in business.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump in there and say, back in the 80s, when I would speak up in a boardroom, it was like nobody cared. And all it took was for a man in the room to say almost the exact same thing, same words, and everyone would go, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yes, that's exactly the strategy that we're going to adopt. So you know what that did for me? It took away my voice for quite a while. I quit talking.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just because it was not worth it to me to spend that much time and then get nothing recognized. So it actually took me a long time to once again find my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so, it's disappointing that it still happens today. But I think it's better, but yeah, definitely still happens. Jenna, you want to talk about, I know you love this graphic, so
I do. Sorry, I'm having to mute my phone because, it's my birthday. So I getting 17,000 text messages today and everybody's pinging me and I'm on my Mac, which means my text messages come through. Sorry. So, I love this graphic because it really breaks it down. There's times where people will try to downplay the difference between equality and equity and try to make it a conversation of like, well, we can't make everything perfect for everybody. And I think this graphic really shows how we can, right? So equality is everybody gets a pair of shoes. Great. Well, if I get a pair of size 11 shoes and Katie gets a pair of size 11 shoes and Emma gets a pair of size 11 shoes and my boyfriend gets a size of pair 11 shoes, none of us are probably going to fit them actually, but we have shoes. Awesome. Cool. We have something on the bottoms of our feet. Great. Diversity is everyone getting a different type of shoe. So it's what fits you. If you need to go to the gym one day, you've got tennis shoes. If you need to go to a board meeting and wear power heels, you get those power heels. And knowing that in the right spot with your shoes. Equity is everyone getting a pair of shoes that fits. So this is where you really start to see like, great, I can actually use the shoes for me. They don't hurt me. I'm not fumbling over the shoes because they're too tall or too big for me, or I don't have to cram my feet into them because they're too small. Acceptance is understanding we all wear different kinds of shoes. While diversity and this one go together, you get to say like, hey, you know what? If this person wants to show up in tennis shoes every day, that's how they show up because that's what's for them. And then belonging, I love that it's a pair of Crocs because I just think it's so funny that they've made the comeback that they have. But belonging is wearing the shoes you want without fear of judgment, and maybe it's that you show up in Crocs one day and nobody gives you a sideward look because you just are comfortable and everybody's okay with that. And in this, oh, go ahead, Kate.
No, go ahead.
This graphic is another one that I just love when you think about belonging and acceptance of people in general. And this is actually a Emma. I see your comment in the chat. So this is really just a great depiction of what happens when we try to give everybody the same assessment. So this is actually a little bit of a dig at the education system, is where this came from. But if you ask a elephant to climb a tree, probably going to fail that test. So will a fish. So will a sea lion. A bird's going to win a little bit, but like obviously the person that's going to succeed in that is a monkey. That's the easiest thing for them to do. That's what they're made for. But if you give a penguin the ability to swim in water, they're going to flourish at that, and a monkey's going to falter. And so just showing that we all have skills in different areas and being able to use them. And we talk about this so much in our trainings as far as like the working genius and being a team and how we play with each other to complement each other as a team. But if you're trying to assess somebody on something that they're just not built for, you're setting them to fail anyways.
Yeah. And it's so perfect because as we think about how we show up for each other and how we're allies, and we think about, we talked about imposter syndrome before, we're all so different. We're all so unique. We all have things that are celebrated and make us special. And so the more we focus on those, the more we can really support and show up for each other. Um, so we wanted to start with what does it really mean to be an ally? And I know, Linda, we were talking about this before. So do you want to share a little of your thoughts on what it means to be an ally?
Well, I think what it means to be an ally, you're the person. You are the one that really celebrates someone, whether they're in the room with you or not. When they're in the room with you, you're actively celebrating them. When they're not in the room with you, you are actively celebrating them just as well. You don't always get to pick and choose when you want to be an ally. An ally is consistent. That's what really makes it an ally. So it was interesting to me when I was asking Google and Chat GPT and everyone, define this. And it turns out that back in the 1100s was when the word ally first showed up. And then, as you well know, when you go through history class, it is all about the allies. Who are your buddies? Who are your friends? Who are those that you can trust? And I think everything is based upon that one word, trust. Who do you trust?
Yeah. And I think that's so powerful because as a woman, we need to know that people that we trust and that we bring into our inner circle will say our name and will say our name in a very positive light. And I was sharing with Emma and Jenna yesterday, like my daughter and I were having a conversation. And there's times as human beings that someone gets something and we're like, oh, I wanted that, or oh, why not me? Or Abby was talking about, her qualifying golf round, and she was like, I want my friends to do really well, but also I want to win. And it's like, that's natural that we're like, oh, good for them. Why not me? But it's when we, tear people down or don't support people, or, I've seen people in my career that want me to be just successful enough, not more successful than them. They want me to be successful, but then once the light shines just a little more for one reason or another, it's you don't know what they're going to say behind your back, and that's scary.
Yeah, that's why I love, Linda, what you said about it really being about you. Because there's times where we're like, man, why not us? But you have to look internally and be able to say, hey, I'm jealous of this. Why am I jealous and what do I want that's making me driven for this? And not project it onto that person and not cast it outwards and, tear somebody down. And one of our other clients, I don't remember who it was now, Katie, but they told us at some point, being an ally is a noun. It's not, or it's a verb, not a noun. And it's also, it can be a noun, but it's not given to you by yourself. Somebody else has to give this to you. You can't just name it yourself. And like Linda, you mentioned, you have to be actively doing this to be able to have it be a verb. And it's never easy. Sometimes it makes you super uncomfortable, but we're going to go through the different types of allies here and how you can show up and kind of give you guys some tips and tricks on how you can show up even when it's not easy. So
Yeah, it was Mortensen Construction. It was when I was hosting that allyship panel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, and being an ally, we've talked about it, but it's having a seat at the table, but also scooching our chair over a little bit and being like, hey, come on in. Join me at the table. It's that no judgment. Like we all have stuff. And so, how I might handle something is different than the way Emma might handle something. And so there's no judgment. We're all doing the best we can, which goes back to the Barbie quote. We're doing the best we can. There's more ingredients to make more pies. So I had never heard this before yesterday. So Jenna, do you want to explain this? I love it, but I had not heard it.
I kind of made it up, so don't feel bad you haven't heard it. It's one of those things where like everybody's like, oh, I want a slice of the pie. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, what happens when there's no pie? We make more. That's what we do, right? Like you don't have to just think about the single pie that's there. We have tons of pie to bake. So just making sure that you don't limit yourself. And the slice of the pie piece kind of has the seat at the table part too. Like, all of us women are sometimes pitted against each other to, oh, we have to make the one spot that's open for the one woman. Okay, well, you don't have to just be the only piece of the pie that's female. Like we can figure out how to get more in here, and not have to feel like you're, a token, or how to not sacrifice yourself to just make sure you keep your seat.
Yeah. And the other one that you that you say all the time that I love is shine your light, but not in other people's eyes. And so, as women trying to, maneuver our own career path, we do need to be our strongest allies and our strongest cheerleaders, and we need to make sure that people can hear our voice. But we want to do it in a way that we don't shine it in other people's eyes, that we don't dim their light, that we don't shut them down in the process. So, okay, Jenna, I'm going to turn this one over to the next few slides over to you because you do such a good job on these.
Okay. So these are the 7 types of allies. Normally, if we're in a crowd, I make people guess because most people are like 2, 3, maybe 12. They kind of go crazy, but there are 7 different types of allies that you can be. These do not come from us. This comes from research way over my head, and people with much bigger pay grades. So these are, you can Google them anywhere. I think I pulled these from the BBC a long time ago. So but the sponsor is the first kind of ally. And the sponsor is the person who openly supports colleagues from underrepresented groups in professional contexts in the workplace. They'll recommend a colleague for projects and talk about their expertise. As a sponsor, you can point out development opportunities or offer practical support. So you see sponsors a lot in supervisor relationships. Those people who say, hey, I think that Emma would be really great for this. Let her take on this stretch project. She may not have done this yet, but she has the qualifications to get this done. The upstander, this is the ally that most people think of. I think this is the, middle school bully. Somebody steps in front and says, no, you're not going to do that. And this is really the one that people think of the most. It's also sometimes the one that makes people the most uncomfortable because people don't want to be the target themselves. And, that's kind of what comes with when you are the upstander. Like kids will, hey, I'm going to stand in front of this bully, and then they get punched. Or, hey, I'm going to say you can't do this, and then they direct the mean words toward this person. And it can be a really hard one. But the upstander is that person that says, hey, you will not do this. They are the opposite of the bystander. And they will also push back on offensive comments or jokes, even if somebody who would be offended by that is not around. So it's not just that you're standing up when somebody is visibly in front of you, but when, anybody's there and you just know that it's wrong and it won't work for you. The scholar, Katie's smiling up there because she says this is me. So the scholar is the person who just wants to learn the most about another person's experience. They just really want to understand how it's affected somebody, do research, but they don't insert their own opinions or ideas, and they just want to listen and learn. They do their own research and seek out relevant information. So this is very apparent when you think about me with fitness. Like I have my own background of fitness and health and stuff, but if you come to me and ask questions, I will usually start with a different question set. Like, hey, what have you tried before? What's been working? What's your background? Kind of get a little bit more information to be able to actually give you things that will help you. So this is the person who likes to research. The confidant, this is one that I feel like women do a much better job of having than men do. This is just kind of the way that we're wired, I think. But the confidant is that person that, has that safe space where you can go and you can talk and you can just be validated, really. Sometimes I have to be careful with this one because I'm the doer person. And so I literally have to ask friends, do you just want me to listen or do you want me to fix it? And sometimes they just need the confidant to just listen and hear it. The really important part here is Brene Brown will add another tack onto that one, but being the vault. And so one of the things that's hard about being a confidant is not spreading people's things around, right? Even if it's in the best intentions. And sometimes there's something going on at work and somebody's missing or something and everybody's like, ooh, do you know what happened? And you might, but that's not your information to share. And you have to be able to say, yes, Katie told me what was going on, but you know what? When she comes back, if she wants you to know, she'll let you know. She'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
The champion, this one, so just so you guys know, the champion, the sponsor, and the amplifier are very similar. They do get mixed a lot. And so if you're ever confused on which one, just know that it's not super important to categorize them, but you can do some deciphering through these. But The champion will send out a powerful message by voluntarily deferring to colleagues from underrepresented groups in meetings and events and conferences. So you can be a champion by suggesting colleagues on as panelists or recommending them to speak, even if you're an equally good fit. So this one in the sponsor difference is this person might have the exact same qualifications and may say, hey, you know what? I actually think that this person needs to take this because they're just as good at it, and it will give them an opportunity to grow and represent and show some representation inside the group. The amplifier, they focus on ensuring a wide range of voices are heard. This type of ally can be many different forms, but it's focused on representation within communication. So again, you're seeing very similar conversations between those last two, but that amplifier is really the person who says, hey, Linda, didn't you just say that? And really making sure that people are like, oh, that wasn't that man's idea. That was Linda's idea.
Yes.
And then the advocate takes on the role of using their power and influence to bring peers from underrepresented groups into highly exclusive circles. So again, the context of this one is the highly exclusive circles. Who's missing from the table? Who didn't get invited to the events? Who's not in the magazine? Who didn't get recognized? Like, this is much more about visibility and making sure that people from underrepresented groups have the visibility to be representation for other members of that underrepresented group.
So thank you, Jenna. I love all of those. Jenna introduced me to those several years ago, and I mean, it's just such a great representation of allyship. And so this just, when we send you the slides, you'll see all of these and kind of have a little some resources there. Also some extra resources that we love. I love the Better Allies book. She also has a great newsletter that comes out every Friday on how to really be a stronger ally. It's Harvard implicit bias and unconscious bias tests. If you've never done that, it's pretty powerful. And you can take assessments on all kinds of different biases. It wouldn't be Jenna's birthday or a talk on allyship without some shout outs to Brene Brown. She has, her
you can't have belonging without Brene. It just doesn't work.
right. And your birthday without Brene Brown. So the Dare to Lead assessment is a really great assessment that just kind of gives you a reflection on yourself. There's her TED Talks are out there. And then the book, I know we've talked about this before, but I love this book, How to Be an Extrovert or an Introvert in an Extroverted World. When we talk about allyship, when we talk about belonging, when we talk about confidence in a room, we also need to shine special light on those introverts in the room that are not going to necessarily speak up, that aren't going to, really come to the forefront. And so making sure that we're paying attention to that. So I know we have covered a lot. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So, Linda, any more thoughts on allyship or kind of your experiences?
Well, my experiences are pretty varied on allyship. I'll tell you one that I did wrong, and it's a reflection of what was done to me. And Jenna just pointed it out once again, and I just felt that in there, is about 8 years ago. I was on a board, and the conversation was around diversity on the board. So I brought a friend of mine, talked to her about her passion around this board, why, and if she had something. She did, brought her to the boardroom, and she was a very vocal person. She spoke out. Absolutely no one listened. Now, in my head, I'm thinking I want her to forge her own path, and I don't want to speak for her. That's what went through my head. So afterwards, when we're out on the driveway of the building, I said, oh gosh, that didn't quite go the way that I was hoping. And she looked at me and she goes, You didn't have my back in there. What was that? And, you know, it is right intention, wrong action. So that was my first really big understanding and being able to touch how I felt. But now I just did that to someone else. And we got it all repaired. It took a while to get all that repaired, but learning how you can't turn it on and off. If you're going to be that person, be that person, be committed and do it fully. And I have a couple of quotes that I think are really, really great. And one of them is by Adam Grant. And it is, allyship is more of a journey than a declaration.
Yeah.
You know, we can all sit here and say we want to be these allies, but how do you become that ally? And then my favorite, and because an ally really is a friend, Martin Luther King, and I'm old enough that I actually heard him say these things in real life over a radio, believe it or not. And it really was, in the end, we will remember not what the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. And I think the silence of our friends is something that I think is really important for us to pay attention to. I actually heard that as a quote in a movie. And sitting here, of course, my memory has gone away, so I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was about the silence of a friend, and that friends can hurt you more than anyone. So if you are going to be an ally, you need to be an ally all the way through. And sometimes, as we've heard 3 or 4 times today, uncomfortable. And uncomfortable is where you grow. Uncomfortable is where you learn. Uncomfortable is where you make sure that someone else is comfortable.
Yeah. Oh, digesting all of that, because that is such a powerful, like, you know, going back to imposter syndrome, going back to our very first session on don't be nice, be kind. Like, I would rather someone I love and care for come and have a difficult conversation with me, or a kind conversation, or, you know, be there for me. Then, you know, it's easy for me to cast off what someone who doesn't know me, their opinion of me. But someone who, going back to trust, someone who we trust, someone who we think's in our corner, someone who we think supports us, doesn't show up or is silent, or there's an opportunity for them to be an ally, there's an opportunity for them to say our name and they don't. I think that's more crushing to me sometimes um than people that I don't know.
Agree 100%. I think all 4 of us are sitting here busily nodding our heads, because it really makes a difference. It really does. It is, what's the saying that I'm looking for? That is, people may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And the older I get, the more importance I actually put on that. It's not a toss away sentence. It's the real deal. And I think that's what's to remember is, as Katie and Jenna and Emma, congratulations to you for opening up these topics, because they are uncomfortable and sometimes we do have to face ourselves. But I just think it's so important that these are the conversations that we have. And I think with driving pursuits, I mean, you can all take a look at it and wonder what brought you together. Golf was the commonality, but everything that we just talked about is the real reason why you're there. You want to belong. You want to be a part of something. That experience of commonality stays with you forever, which also leads me for a plug for the Executive MBA, the 21-month program. But it is that experience of commonality where you learn that trust is at the basis of everything we do within a classroom. It's the basis of everything we have with our friends.
Yeah.
And that open, safe space and welcoming someone new in.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Absolutely. So as we start to wrap up, ladies, Emma, I'm going to toss it to you at the end here, see if there's anything you want to add, because she's our resident introvert and will be a little bit more quiet on things. So I pull her in all the time. But One of the things that Katie and I do when we run this session as a leadership session, we do ask people, one, for you to think about how you typically show up as an ally. Which one of those 7 is the way that you normally show up? For me, like Katie said, I am the scholar and most of the time the upstander. I'm the one who will be like, no. And then how do you want somebody to show up for you? You know, some of us really love just having a confidant. Some of us want a sponsor. Some of us want an amplifier. Like, who do you want to show up for you? Typically, every situation can be different, but what do you usually lead? It's kind of like love languages, in a way. And so thinking about how you show up for others and how you need people to show up for you. And that can really help you to understand how to verb being an ally.
Yeah, I love it.
Say too, make a list of the people in your life who you can show up for, who you can be an ally for, and who you can champion or listen to, or whatever the case may be. And then make another list of the people who you trust, who you think are your allies, and who you think can do something for you and stand up in a way for you. And then I would say take that list and do something with it. You know, both of those lists. And that may mean that you have to put yourself in a position of asking someone that you trust, hey, I trust you. I see you as an ally for me, and I know that you have a bigger voice than I do. Can you do XYZ? Can you keep me in mind when you're thinking about, you know, who you're going to talk about in a room? And so sometimes that feels a little awkward and funny. But I think that it's really important for you to, like you said, Linda, earlier, be your own advocate and your own ally. And part of that is actually letting people know, because sometimes people just don't know that they can and should help you. So definitely advocate for yourself in that way, and make sure that you're looking at that first list of people that you can help and, you know, actually doing something with that.
Yeah.
Ooh, nothing better than homework. I love that.
I love assigning
Yeah,
homework
I think
at
it's
the end of
great.
these.
Homework is awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, ladies, thoughts, questions? I know a lot of you are in transition, or
Driving.
many people are, driving, or hair and makeup's not done. You know, we don't judge you. But what's going on? Thoughts, questions?
No, I just appreciate it. A lot to self-reflect on. So, I mean, more so to what Jenna said. I know how I show up, right? I know I'm the confidant to my friends, but then actually sitting down and self-reflecting on what is it that I need. And now that we are all at this, at least for me, middle age, on the latter half of my career, then I should have the ability to go to those individuals and have those open conversations of what I am needing and voice those, because essentially then if I don't, then I'm asking them to read my mind.
Right.
Yeah. Not many people have that talent.
No. So that's my biggest takeaway, is really for my own self-reflecting. And then at the same time, then turning the tables and being able to ask them, I understand that I show up like this, but maybe that's not meeting what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Yeah. That is perfect. All right. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. Linda, do you want to let people know how they can get in touch with you if they are interested in learning more about the work you do?
Sure. I'm real easy to get a hold of, and Katie and Jenna and Emma, I'll turn it back on you because you know how to share my info as well. But my phone number, and I do texts, I actually answer my phone, is 816-305-4449. And I'm really easy for email. It's just linda.endicott@rockhurst.edu.
We love Linda, and we asked her on here because she's fantastic and does some amazing work, but also because she is an amazing connector. Talk about somebody who will help everybody. If there are 3 people in this city that if I need to find somebody, I go to, Linda is one of them. And if she can't find them, they typically don't exist. So if you
Thank you. Well, I love to have coffee with people at the famous XWA on 55th and Brookside Boulevard. It is the best organic networking ever because you never know who's coming in, and we can always find something there. So you can generally find me there. I would love to invite you for coffee. Would like to know, how can I be of service to you? What would be helpful to you? And right back at you, Jenna, Katie, and Emma. You are heartbeats. You are those people. I was with someone yesterday and we were talking about who's your person, and you end up, these are my people. Just this short time this morning will energize me for the whole rest of the day, because it's conversations that matter and they have impact and they will make you think. And that's why it's always be curious like a scientist, and you just can't miss. And these things will make you think.
Oh,
we love it.
oh, I'm a softie. So thank you so much, Linda, for being here with us today, for sharing your experiences, sharing your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, ladies, who have joined us. And for those of you that are going to watch this, remember you have homework that Emma has assigned to you. Do your homework and then let us know the work that you have done. We love doing these sessions, and I think all of them are my favorite, but really this conversation about how we show up for each other and how we support each other and how we say each other's names. I think there's no greater gift as women. Oh, what is this? Ooh,
Oh,
what is
I love
this?
when little things get Katie. She's just like, oh, what is that?
Oh, yeah, it's just such an important topic. So thank you, everyone. Have a awesome day and rest of the week, and we will see you soon, or see you on the golf course, or all of the above. Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.